Okay, so welcome. Today I'll be talking about Kano and how the deck is performed for me, and also about our matchups and the meta overall. Um, I have 100 games exactly on this deck after Parthemisfell release. I have a 70% win rate, and by chance, the first 50 games I have a 60% win rate, and the second 50 games I have an 80% win rate. Uh, this is my matchup spread. Oh, god damn it. This is my matchup spread. Yeah, I think a few of these are definitely worse than they should be. But that's no matter. So 70% win rate, I think that's pretty solid. I think if you play the deck perfectly, you could probably even get as high as 85 or 90%, honestly. Um, this is the list I've been running. It's been 33 blues for most of my testing. This is my sideboard. And this is the main board. So 2 Cindering, 2 Flare, and 2 Booms, and the rest is just standard. With a 3x Kindle package. Um, so after my 100 games, I think this isn't quite optimal. But I'll talk about that a bit later on. The sideboard, the 1 for 4s, and this are for Enigma and the Mirror, and the Scour is only for Enigma. You can consider bringing it into Vincent and Viserai. I personally, I think it's good into Vincent. I don't know if I would play it into Viserai, because they usually don't have rune chance left over, or they don't really need their rune chance, right? Vincent, if she has 2 rune chance at the end of her turn, that really enables a really strong turn from her, because she can just banish a 3-cost rune gate and then play it out for free immediately without having to make more rune chance. So I think bringing it into Vincent is actually a good idea. I don't do it currently, but I will be testing that later with my next testing the next few weeks. As I said, I don't think this is actually optimal for the deck. I think what I'll be bringing to Nats, I think, could maybe change slightly, but I think this is probably going to be my final list. I took out the booms, added in a third depot and a third Aether Flare. I think Sonic Boom does have some merit in the deck, but I think in most situations where you would want Sonic Boom, Aether Flare is just as good. And then there are a lot of situations where you would rather have Aether Flare than Sonic Boom, so I think this is definitely worth it. The third depot, this is still under consideration, but I definitely want to go up to 34 blues. If turns out that 3 depots is bad, I'll just take out a depot and put in a Reverberate probably. And then also Cindering, I am still not quite sure on 3 Flare or 3 Cindering, but I'll probably end up on 3 Flare. I've done a bit of testing with 3 Cindering and I didn't really like it that much, but I will be testing it. But for now, I think this was the list that I will be bringing to Nationals. The sideboard also changed a bit. I took out the Oasis and the Scalding Rain, and I brought in Snapback. Snapback really good into Enigma and the Mirror, and Oasis just wasn't really necessary into stacking. I feel like most stack matchups are pretty easy, even with just 3D reacts. I'm still going to be testing into Hedge's Warrior, if that is still something that is doable with only 3 defensive cards. Overall, I think the deck is in a really great spot. I can go over the matchup spread real quick. As you can see, overwhelmingly positive. most of these are stack matchups. Olympia, Victor, Nu. Nu is a bit iffy because they can shuffle, but they don't really output a lot of damage. So if you just spark like a D-React and Arsenal, you can be fairly certain you can block out their Bonds of Agony, and even if you don't, you can just stack them again, because they really don't pressure a lot. Zuri Riptide isn't a stack matchup, but he doesn't really have game into us. You can stack him if there are Riptides which are on very there are aggro Riptides. Obviously, there are mid-range Riptides which can sideboard in an aggro package, and then there are purely defensive Riptides. The purely defensive Riptides you can easily stack even without a stack package. So I always bring in the tempo package because we can't stack the aggro versions anyway, and that way you can pivot to stacking when you notice that your opponent is like doing 6 damage a turn or something. Max also isn't a stack matchup, but he has to give up his AB if he wants to turn into the robot. And if he doesn't turn into the robot, he's basically just a worse dash. So, and you can see dashes up here. So, yeah. Bravo, you can stack. Kasai, you can probably stack, but as I said, I still have to do some testing into Hash's Warrior with just 3 defensive cards. Arachne, I do bring in. I don't bring in D-Rex into Arachne because of the ability to bottom. But otherwise, he's still very stackable. He doesn't really output a lot of damage. Betsy's stackable. Teklo is just an auto win because we basically counter everything Teklo wants to do. Enigma, I have it in 70-30. In my testing, I've only lost 1 game to Enigma. Yeah, so I'm 5-1 and I've played a total of 1 game on this deck, which was against Enigma, which was also a win. So I'm 6-1 into Enigma right now on Talishar. Which, I mean, this is hard to evaluate because Talishar players aren't very good most of the time, like on average. I think this matchup is most of the time the better player wins, except if the players are of equal skill level. In that case, Kano wins. That is what I think of the matchup. I have been told by a good illusionist player that he has not dropped a game into Kano yet, but I also haven't tested into him yet. So I have seen other Kanos test into him, and it seemed like it would be winnable. Azalea, I don't know if she should necessarily be this high. Maybe top of like 60-40. Kindle is just really strong, man. It's like all the decks that want to race us, like Katsu before was like down here, and now he's just up here because you can just blast him so hard. I think if you play disciplined, yeah, they can blow you out if they find their Arsenal disruption. Like if they can chain like 3 or 4 turns of inertia, they can win. It's just really hard because they have to chain inertia, and also like even if they do chain inertia for like 3 turns, if you draw like a good Arsenal piece on the turn that they don't have inertia, you can just Arsenal that and still win anyway. KO, I'm not stacking KO at the moment. I think you could, but you would need to give up a lot of percentage points into Enigma and into the mirror, and I'm not comfortable doing that for a tactic that is honestly, it's debatable if it even consistently works into good players. Dash is up here. I already thought it was pretty good for us, and now we can just hit him harder. Bolton, I think Raiden is still stackable, but he should probably be up here now. Yeah, I think Bolton should just be in the top category probably if you're stacking him. Lavaya, she's about the same difficulty as KO, but she has a lot of spell void but no AB, so it basically cancels out, and it becomes like probably the same percentage. Dorinthia against Dawnblade, I don't actually stack because I I thought it was already pretty iffy with 5 defensive cards. Now I'm down to 3, so I just play Tempo into Dawnblade. I think it's pretty good if they find Oasis at the right time. If they play it, you can get blown out, but I think if they don't, you pretty easily win. Dash IO is slightly better than normal Dash probably, but they can just blow you up more easily, so Fi, he's not really a meta player right now, but he just doesn't have the resources to pitch for AB, so that's why he's up here. Vincent is a pretty difficult matchup. Could probably also be down here in 50-50. I think Vincent is pretty difficult because she has a high amount of spell void, and she can also pretty quickly present like a lot of damage. Actually, Vincent is kind of a sleeper pick at this point in the meta right now, in my opinion. Reinar, I think I kind of overestimated our ability into Reinar when I made this list. He should probably be down in 50-50. The main thing with Reinar is because of the Intimidate, you have to do your combo at the start of their turn always, which is generally not what we want. And also, they can do a thing where they keep a wind up in hand, and then when you activate Rags, they discard the wind up. So you have to intimidate your last card. They intimidate the last card out of your hand, and your Rags was basically, so you basically lose a combo piece. So Deja Vu Pot is really important in this matchup. So yeah, I mean, now that I am on 3, maybe he should be up here, but you know, it's either 60-40 or 50-50. Viserai, I think the most Viserais are like up here, but then there are some which are on, I think it's AB3 Tiara or something. So you would have Vexen Quillhand and AB2 Chess and Spellfree, or what's the TR called? The one that gives your one shot Spellfree for the turn. So they basically permanently have AB3 Spellfree 1, and sometimes they have more than that. So he's pretty difficult. I haven't actually played into any Viserais, I think. Have I? No, I haven't. So this is basically just theory crafting in that case, but I don't expect I'll see him at Nats anyway. So Katsu, he is up here. I think the matchup is favored for us now. It's still difficult. You can still get caught, like turns Joy Dishonor just basically kills you, because you just can't win anymore. If they dishonor you, you lose the game on the spot. You cannot win after a dishonor. It's impossible. It is theoretically possible. Let's say you combo and you're still at a high relatively high life total, and they play Dishonor, and then you combo in response, put them down to like 2, and then you take the Dishonor and you get hit with the Dishonor effect, then you draw into like Spindle and the blue, and then you kill them over their AB. Like, it is theoretically possible in that situation to win through a Dishonor, but most of the time you get hit by a Dishonor, like 95% of the time, or probably more than that even, you just lose the game on the spot. Kano, the mirror, obviously a 50-50, better player wins. Zen, I did put him in 50-50. If you look at my win rate, seems a lot better than 50-50, but Zen is a deceivingly hard deck to play. The deck's Evan Herden's deck, which when you as Nats is actually a lot better into Kano than most Zen builds. And I think also a skilled Zen pilot that knows how to play the matchup specifically, can get a lot of percentage points from just being a good player and knowing when to hold back AB and when not to and stuff. I think if you're into a skilled Zen opponent, it's probably 40-60 if they run AB3 links, which I think every Zen should be on. If it's not, it's probably up here in 70-30. Then Prism, we gain percentage points in the matchup with Kindle. I think it's not an auto loss anymore. If they're on AB2, you can basically just go home because you're not winning that. It's like 5% even with Kindle. AB1, I don't know, it's kind of a different story. You have winning chances. Let's just like if you can combo like if you go first, and you can combo turn 1 before they get a soul, you're probably good. If you don't, you're probably not good. So, yeah. Then I also have an overall meta tier list. I think this is around what the meta will look like right now. Zen, I think, is the sole S tier deck at this point. I think he is clearly a cut above the rest of the decks. Then I think in A tier we have Kano, Azalea, and both Illusionists. I think Kano is the second best deck in format right now, but I am hesitant to put him up here in S tier with Zen because Zen is just so dominant. Like if this is the actual Zen Kano matchup win rate, I think he does deserve a spot in S tier. But it's not. It's just not. It's so I think he's down here in A tier. Azalea is just really strong. A lot of disruption, a lot of damage. Good, just a overall very strong deck, and I think she does deserve a spot in A tier. Then both Illusionists. I did put Enigma higher above Prism in this tier list, but I think you could make the case for either of them. Prism has a terrible matchup into Enigma, I've heard, and we saw it on stream at US Nationals. But Prism, I think, has a slightly better matchup spread across the board. Well, not across the board, specifically into Zen, which is something that matters a lot, considering Zen is by far the singular best deck in format right now. Levaya and KO, I think Levaya is slightly stronger into most decks. On the other hand, maybe not as much into Zen because she does need a little bit of time to set up. Not like a lot, but like 1 or 2 turns, and Zen can just not give you that. Sometimes Zen just kills you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I think both are top of B. I don't like putting them in A tier anymore. Yeah, they just considering how many people were on KO or Levaya at US Nats, for example, and the placements that they actually got, the converted, it just didn't convert well. I think not well enough to deserve a spot in A tier. Victor, the aggro build of Victor specifically, I think does deserve a spot here. It has game into Zen if you can change disruption. Doesn't have game into KO. Kano, fortunately, is probably got a good matchup into Azalea and probably just kind of loses to both of these. But the thing with Victor is he also doesn't. The aggro versions might have also a good matchup into the birds. I don't really know. But the thing with Victor is he kind of just bullies everything that isn't up here. So that's why he's in B tier. Basically, he's kind of like a you must be this tall to ride deck. New in B tier, I think she might potentially be higher if I don't know if she's really all that figured out right now. I did expect a little more from her, honestly, going into the meta, but it just turned out to not really be, where it's at right now. It just, whatever. Katsu, also in B tier, is just kind of worse Zen right now. So, it could maybe be because there's no reason to play Katsu right now, because Zen is basically just a Katsu deck, but better at this point, considering he's running Descendant Bonds package, and that's what Katsu does. Azuri, I think, is kind of like a worse new at this point. Azuri does do better at is better at a mid-rangey playstyle, because new kind of really wants to keep all 4 cards in hand most of the time. But that doesn't really work in the current meta. You need to be aggressive into basically all of these heroes at the top here. Riptide, I think, is a sleeper pick right now. He has kind of a 50-50 matchup in the sense, so that's not really great. He has a terrible matchup into Kano, but I don't really kind of judge most top decks into how good they are into Kano, because most people won't see a Kano at their event, right? I'm I expect at the nationals I will be going to Dutch nationals that there will be 3 Kano players, of which I am one. Uh, and it's a 96 player tournament. So if the Kanos flunk out or you just dodge them, right? You can easily just play a 12 round tournament without facing a Kano. Um, so that's why I do put him in B tier. I think he has a pretty good matchup into Enigma. I think he has a pretty good matchup into Azalea. I don't know what his Prism matchup is, but I can imagine it's decent at least. Um, Dash, she did win a battle hardened, or yeah, I think it was a battle hardened, like the first one after Bartimisville dropped. I think that might have also been because Zen decks weren't really figured out. But she does have game into Zen. Like if she plays 9 T-bones and she just uh, get 4 T-bones out as fast as possible, you basically win the game right there. On the other end, if he transcends like turn 0 or turn 1 and then draws up and sees that he can just combo, he will just block your equipment with, or block your T-bone with his equipment with a smile on his face, you know. Bolton is up here. Looking at the top matchup spread, the Azalea matchup is decent. I can imagine the Zen matchup is fucking horrible. I don't know how he does into Enigma. I can imagine it's pretty bad. His Prism matchup is pretty phenomenal. He should probably be a tier lower. He doesn't. But that Hatches build is interesting. So, you know, he can stay here. I really like Bolton as a deck. I've played him like a bit, like 30 games or something, and he's just really fun, and he's really fun to play against. So, um, I'm biased. Whatever, sue me. Dorinthia, I think Dawnblade Dorinthia does have some game into some heroes. Patches is kind of dead, honestly, because mid range, like last meta, was really value oriented, and if you look at the top decks right now, none of them are value decks. Like, if we're gonna be honest, 4 out of the 5 of these decks can be considered combo decks, right? Prism has a game-winning combo. Enigma isn't necessarily a combo deck in the traditional sense, but she does have landing and manifestations, and kind of protecting that is it's not really a combo, but it sort of is at the same time. You have the Restless Coalescence and the fucking Spectre Shield +3 counters thing card. Is also can be considered a combo. She has like a lot of mini combos baked into her deck. So she can be considered a combo deck. Azalea I wouldn't consider a combo deck. She's just a class for aggro deck. Kano is a combo deck through and through, and Zen is just Ninja Kano. So mid-range just doesn't work that well right now, and that really hurts her. Hatch's build, but Dawnblade does work pretty well into. I mean, I don't know if I would say works pretty well, but the illusionists are pretty bad. Kano is okay. However, up here, I think if you face like maybe a less experienced Kano player, or if you bring like AB3 Oasis, it can be pretty decent matchup. Zen is meh. Like, I think you can probably win, but you need to, you can't really block, right? So if you land like a glistening, or not glistening, is it glistening, the card that gives a +1 counter on hit? You can basically win. I think Vincent is kind of a sleeper pick right now. I don't think I struggle to say any of her matchups are really good. Like Enigma is solid, Prism is I think also solid. Azalea is probably slightly unfavored, and Zen is probably pretty heavily unfavored. Kano's sort of 50-50. I think she's kind of a sleeper pick right now. Like before this, she was like in C tier or in D tier even. But she does some stuff, Eloquent Eulogy is just a really good card, and I think she is being underrepresented at this point, but that's mostly just because there aren't really a lot of, people that are like Vincent mains, Max, top of C tier, like he can do some stuff because he can still play like the T-Bone plan into Zen. You can see him doing some stuff. The only problem is he just, it's a setup deck. Just like Teklovasen. It's you can't really do your setup stuff right now, and that just hurts. Deck decks that want to do that kind of setup stuff right now. Reiner is decent. He has game into both illusionists. Obviously, Reiner has historically always been a pretty good into illusionists. He just doesn't really do anything against like Zen or Azalea. He does have a winning chances against Kano, but it's kind of iffy, and there just really isn't a reason to play him at this point in time. Dash.io, a really strong aggro deck. The problem is Zen is just a better aggro deck at this point. Azalea is also just a better aggro deck. Why would you play like Dash.io if we disregard Zen? Because Zen is broken and I think he should get bans. Dash.io in a vacuum is better than Azalea at being an aggro deck. The only problem is with Dash.io, if your hands don't fall the right way, you lose the game. Right? You just straight up lose the game. If you draw your items, if you have like a 4-item hand, there's nothing you can do. You just lose. And granted, that doesn't happen very often. Most games with Dash.io are going to be average, because that's what average means, right? The thing is, if over like a tournament that is over like a non-armored tournament, right? Because an armory most of the time is like 3 or 4 rounds, and you can consistently maybe perform pretty well in an armory with Dash.io. I think if you're taking her to an armory, she's probably like here, top of B. But the problem is, if you want to play at like a nationals, you're going to have to play if you're going to win, like at Dutch nationals, for example. There are 6 rounds of CC Swiss, and then there's the top 8. If you want to win the nationals, you have to play 9 rounds of CC, and you can bet your ass that one of those rounds at least will be lost purely because you're playing a high variance deck. It's not really sustainable if you want to like win. That's like assuming you 6-0 your draft, right? Which is already pretty unrealistic. I think if you're a very good draft player, it's realistic to say that you will go 5-1 in your draft. That means that in your Swiss you can only lose 2 games of CC, and you'll still make top 8. Assuming one of the games is to variance, you can only lose 1 game because of, for example, a bad matchup or whatever. That's not really that good, If the thing is with Kano is also like a high variance deck. I think you can realistically expect that over a 9-round tournament, you are going to lose 1 game just because your variance is bad. Whether that be pairing into Prism or just drawing bad, or just your combo pieces being like in the bottom half of your deck. The thing with Kano is, if you don't lose to variance, there really isn't a lot you can lose to, right? And then there's also just, let's say your bad variance is in a game where you're facing a victor. Now you just win anyway, right? Dash.io doesn't have that. She doesn't have these matchups where you're like, oh, I win anyway because my deck just has such an overwhelming advantage over your deck. And that's kind of a problem for a deck that is inherently high variance like Dash.io. Even though I really love her, she's like Mechanologist Wizard, which is, great. Played the Dio for a while. She's really fun to play and also very hard to play. Bravo's down here. I don't know, man. Bravo. I don't know, man. He's just worse at being aggro than Victor, and Victor's already not that good at being aggro. And, like, the Dominate just doesn't really do a whole lot anymore, Like, what? Okay, you send a Dominate Crippling Crush at Zen, for example. He just says, okay, I'll take 11, and if you don't do the exact same thing next turn, I'll win the game on the spot. You know, that's a problem. So I played an armory last night. Um, one of the people there was on Bravo, and he did beat a Zen, right? But the way he did that was by playing like a dominate spinal crush into a dominate crippling crush into another dominate crippling crush into a dominate spinal crush, and Zen just didn't get to play the game, right? That's how you have to win those matchups, and that's just not very sustainable, you know? Like 30% of the field, if not more than that, is going to be Zen. If a third of your matchups you have to win by completely high rolling them to oblivion, they're not gonna happen, you know? Kasai down here, same thing as basically Dorinthia, but worse. Dorinthia has like a Dawnblade build, which is viable into some decks and can actually be, pretty good into some decks right now. Kasai is purely value oriented. That's just not the place you want to be right now. Like, let's be real, value decks aren't good in Flesh and Blood right now because, okay, you maybe get 14 to 16 value out of your cards consistently every turn, but that doesn't matter if Sen just blows you up for 60 damage, or if Kano blows you up for 60 damage, or if Azalea pumps 15 dominate at you every turn, or if Enigma overrides you with a Boar State, or if Prism overrides you with a Boar State, you know? At this point in time in Flesh and Blood, value doesn't matter a whole lot. So value decks are just bad, like a Sai. Fi, I heard the devs say that he was like pretty good, but I really don't see it. I have to see like a good deck list for Fi or something, but I don't see how he could be better than Katsu or Zen, you know. And then Viserai, really pains me to say it. Viserai had like what 20 days or something, where his Runeshan stacking build was good, but now, you know, as I said, setup decks are bad, and Viserai is either a bad aggro deck or a setup deck, and neither of those things function right now. Teklovasan setup deck, like, this is, apart from Kano, Teklovasan might be my favorite hero in the game right now, but he's just bad. Like, he doesn't have anything going for him right now. Like, realistically, what's the first matchup if we go down the list that's good for Teklo? It's like, what, KO? I've heard KO is a pretty good matchup for Teklo. This is in beats here, bro. You're not, like, KO is a popular deck. You're going to see it, but you're losing from like 70% of the field. You just lose to, right? That's not good. You can't win a tournament with that. Olympia, another value deck. This is probably, honestly, Olympia and Kasai should probably swap. Olympia, I think, is the best value deck in Flesh and Blood right now. Value decks are just bad, but his specialization is actually like kind of busted. Like, you know, it's a really good payoff if the game is like 7 turns long, and you can get like consistent value out of his specialization, and rebuy your equipment and get like I don't know, like 15 block out of your equipment. That's like a really good, you know, that's like really good value. That's like the definition of a value deck. The problem is value decks are bad, as I've said already. Like, you can get 15 block out of your equipment, but it doesn't beat an ALS loop, doesn't beat a manifestation of Marakai that's been on the field for 8 turns, doesn't beat 17 dominate. Oh, it maybe beats 17 dominate because of a lot of equipment block. Doesn't beat Wildfire for 8. Doesn't beat 60 damage in Bond's turn. Just doesn't, and that's really sad, honestly. Arachne already was like bad Azuri, and now he's just bad Azuri, and Azuri's bad new, so very bad. Betsy probably the worst hero in the game right now. She needs something. I don't know what, but she needs like something. like Betsy got screwed over hard by heavy hitters draft because all the wager cards have to block through to not be overpowered in draft, and now she's just bad in CC. This meta is worse than the heavy hitters meta, in my opinion. Zen is too dominant, and Kano is too good at killing people. I think both of these decks should get a nerf. I think if we don't want the game to trend into a bad direction, both decks should get a nerf. I do have a theory that they actually want Kano to LL before Rosetta comes out, which isn't going to happen with how the deck is currently, because it's really hard to play and there aren't a lot of good Kano players in the world. So he might not get any bans. I also think Zen won't get any bans, but I think he should get bans. I think his boots should be banned probably. That doesn't kill the deck at all. It does make it so the deck is just slightly lower power level, you know? It makes it so Zen is probably still the best deck in the format, but he's probably like down at the top of A tier, and that just makes like a lot of heroes that are like down here or down here that just cannot that just cannot deal with Zen, because he just deals so much damage. That bumps them up a little bit, you know. Value decks are a bit better if the premier aggro deck doesn't just kill you, you know. So I think honestly, if they ban the boots and then they ban like something from Kano, maybe I don't know what they should ban from Kano. The thing is, if they ban the boots from Zen, it doesn't make his Kano matchup any different, because he can use the boots against Kano. And if you then nerf Kano by getting rid of like Aether Spindle or Aether Flare, he's kind of fucked into Zen, you know. But honestly, I don't think that really matters. I think you could get rid of like Aether Flare or Spindle. Another interesting ban could be Spellfire Cloak, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But we'll see. We'll see what the bans bring, you know. After Nationals, there is a bans restricted announcement. I don't know if they'll actually ban anything. If they will ban anything, it'll be just the boost from Zen, I think. But that's probably it for this video. I'll leave a link to this deck in the description. This deck is going to be on private because I don't want people playing on my like if I have other people playing on my deck, I have to go. If I want to see my results, I have to go here and then click on my results, and that's a lot of work for me. So, you know, it's gonna be private. Also, if I make changes to the deck that I don't want like everyone to know about, it's not public immediately. So sorry for that, but you can play on this deck. I'll keep it how it is right now. I think I will, after Nationals, I'll also publicize this deck. So yeah, I think that's basically it for today. This is just 40 minutes of me rambling about Flesh and Blood, but yeah, that's it for this video. I hope everyone that's still here enjoyed it. I hope everyone that's gone also enjoyed it. Subscribe if you enjoyed it, because I'll be putting out gameplay with commentary, and also in 2 weeks I'll make a tournament report of my Nationals, obviously, and also what deck I did end up bringing and how the draft went and stuff like that. So that's really fun. I look forward to that. Yeah, and I'll also be making a couple of gameplay videos in between, because there's one game on this deck. That's not enough. This has to also be at least 100, obviously. If I do reach 100, I'll make another update video. But that's it, I think. So, goodbye.